Do you recognize any of these fish?
Yes. That one over there's an angelfish, and that one's a swordfish, I think.
Do you see the wreck of the ship yet?
Not yet, but according to our sonar, it ought to be on the ocean floor somewhere near here.
Wait, isn't that it?
You're right. The Atlantic Queen. Captain Bly's boat. The best smuggler in Key West.
Hey, look at the hole in the side. How did that happen?
That's where she was hit by a torpedo during the Second World War.
Do you think anybody knows about the gold?
No.
Then who are those skin divers?
What the hell are they doing here?
Wait a second. I know that man.
Do ya?
Yes, he's a marine biologist from Scotland. He's doing some work on whales or something.
And who's the girl with him?
That's his girlfriend. What are we going to do now?
Well, we aren't going to show them the gold, that's for sure.
Wait a minute, Frank. Let's not do anything silly.
What do you mean? It's just an anchor. It won't hurt them.
Uh-oh.
What's wrong?
When you moved the anchor, you disturbed something in the boat. It's coming through the seaweed now.
What the? It's a goddamn shark! Let's get the hell out of here!
Who were those two men, Rob?
They were a couple of crooks from Key West. I've seen them before.
What were they doing?
I think they were looking for the gold from Captain Bly's old boat.
The gold we found yesterday?
That's right.
Why did they get so frightened when that shark came out of the boat?
I don't know, Mary. Perhaps they thought it was going to eat them.
But it was only 1 meter long.
I know, but people have some strange ideas.
They obviously didn't know anything about sharks.
You're right. Running away was the best way to attract his attention.
Do you think it hurt them?
No, it was too small. But I bet it taught them a lesson.
Listening exercise. Sir Francis Fox was an engineer who lived in England at the beginning of this century. He tells the strange story of a man called James Barclay. In 1891, Barclay went to the Arctic on a ship designed to catch whales. After a few weeks at sea, they found an enormous animal like the one Herman Melville described in Moby Dick. This kind of whale is extremely strong, and in the past has actually destroyed ships by using its head to break their sides, which were made of wood. It took the men 3 hours to catch the whale, and during that time, Barclay disappeared. The men killed the whale, and 24 hours later, they started cutting the meat from the whale and putting it into large rooms full of ice. One of them found Barclay inside the whale. He had stayed alive by breathing the air in the whale's stomach. Barclay was very ill for a few weeks, but then he went back to work on the ship. But his face, neck, and arms had gone completely white with the juices in the stomach of the animal. Unit 63. Speaking. Tea leaves and homicides. In these sentences and dialogues, the speakers are English. In the first sentence, listen to the stresses in assassination.
Do you think the assassination was planned, Holmes?
All men are equal before the eyes of the law.
All men are equal before the eyes of a thief, too.
Your cat's a murderer. He's just eaten my goldfish.
You broke the law by throwing a brick through the Prime Minister's window.
This is going to be the robbery of the century.
It seems that the theft took place last night.
My son's become a little tea leaf.
Help! Someone's stolen my handbag!
This is a very interesting burglary, Watson.
Someone's burgled George's house.
Today, I shoplifted 3 watches, 6 bottles of perfume, and 8 leather coats.
I'm sorry, sir. This £100 note is a forgery. Call the police, Wilmot.
Musclehead tried to forge a painting by Bramante, but the police discovered him.
There's been a murder on Hampstead Heath, George, said Lacon. It's old Vladimir.
What's your hobby then, Scarface?
Oh, I do a little bit of shoplifting here and there. Know what I mean? And you?
I myself like to pick a few pockets on the tube.
But Mac, I thought stealing cars was against the law.
Listen, Sol, I say what's legal and what's not legal in this part of town. Now, start the engine.
Last night, a cat burglar stole Miss Glanderbilt's jewellery from her room at the Waldorf Astoria.
The speakers in the second group of sentences and dialogues are American. Pay attention to the stresses in to assassinate and assassin.
I think if Gandhi hadn't been assassinated in 1948, things would have been different in India afterwards.
I don't think anybody really knows who John Kennedy's assassin was.
Didn't anybody ever tell you, Jesse, crime doesn't pay?
We're going to rob the First National Bank tonight. Is everybody ready?
Gee, Scarface, you're the most handsome criminal I know.
Someone's committed a homicide in the Dodger Stadium, Harry.
Before I became a robber with the hole-in-the-wall gang, I was a pickpocket on the streets of New York.
Come quickly. Some thieves have just burglarized Jenny's apartment.
Speaking. Those horrible men. The A in as is sometimes pronounced like the A in cat if it's at the beginning of a sentence, but usually is pronounced with a schwa. Listen to the sentences and dialogues, and then repeat them.
As there was a lot of jewellery in Mrs. Gritpipethin's room, the thieves only took the most expensive things.
They watched the house for 3 nights, so as to be sure there was no one at home at that time.
The robbers wore masks so as not to show their faces.
Since the window was very small, the cat burglar couldn't get into her flat.
I had to really fight to steal her handbag, for Mrs. Dorrit is a very big woman.
Sir Gordon always travels with 3 very large men in order to protect himself from people like us.
The policemen wore normal clothes in order not to show the robbers who they were.
I'm going to put some men in the building across the street in order to know when the gang arrive.
Well, I started being a criminal in order to have a nice Cadillac like Big Al's.
Why did you forge all that money?
Because I wanted to be rich, of course.
Why do you always travel on the tube with your hands in your pockets?
Because of the pickpockets.
Aunt Gertrude, what are you taking that knife for?
To protect myself from those horrible men who wait at the corners of streets.
Speaking. Investigations and interrogations. The first 8 sentences contain nouns and verbs which are very similar or the same. But pay attention to the stresses in these words. Are they the same too?
Well, I've been interrogating him all night, but I haven't found out anything.
How long is this interrogation going to take?
Haven't the police finished their investigation yet?
Police are investigating a robbery that took place in Willington this morning.
You are my #1 suspect, Miss Christie, so do not leave this house.
Do you suspect Colonel Plum or Miss Green?
I've been convicted. They gave me 10 years.
How many convicts escaped?
Police have been looking for clues all night, but the only thing they found is an old sock.
Do you know a good solicitor?
We'd like to question you about last night's robbery at the East Midland Bank in Goodge Street.
Muggsy Malone's trial starts tomorrow, doesn't it?
Lord Whipham Hard is the country's youngest judge. He's 52.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, there are 1 or 2 things I want to tell you about the man you see in front of you.
There were 6 jurymen and 6 jurywomen.
Os Grizzly was imprisoned in Dartmoor jail 19 times in 3 years.
If I get him in the witness box, I'll make him talk.
I'm afraid we haven't reached a verdict yet.
You have broken the law, and it is my job to decide on your punishment.
I sentence you to life imprisonment.
Couldn't I just pay a fine?
Do you mind if I phone my lawyer?
You've got to be careful. This barrister is as kind as a mad rhino.
Here are some sentences with American words. Listen and then repeat.
Oh, jeez. There's a patrolman on the street outside. Let's get the hell out of here.
Put these men in the jail for the night, officer.
Okay, you dirty rat. You're under arrest.
When I get him on the witness stand, he'll sing like a bird.
I'd like you to meet Mr. Schwarzkopf, an attorney at law from Detroit.
Axman Malone was in the state penitentiary for 15 years.
Did you hear the news? There's been a jailbreak at State Pen.
Gus is a jailbird from Arkansas, said Theo.
Speaking. The thief, however, was convicted. Pay attention to the pronunciation of the words although and though. The O-U-G-H at the end is pronounced with the sound of the O in go.
Although he was very ill, he tried to escape from prison.
Though he hadn't murdered anybody, the judge sentenced him to life imprisonment.
Even though he was in the witness box, he wasn't truthful.
They arrested me for picking pockets, but I'm not a pickpocket.